Hello folks, I hope you're having a great day today. Today I'm going to take a look at one of Neil Gaiman's short stories. This is a sequel to a novel that I just recently reviewed for you by Roger Zelazny, which is called A Night in Lonesome October. It's one of his final novels that he wrote. He wrote it in the early 90s, and then Neil Gaiman wrote a sequel to it. It's a sort of a sequel. It's set in the same sort of world, uses one of the characters that's in it, and so forth. And so he actually published it. He wrote it in 1994. The name of the sequel, the short story, is Only the End of the World Again. And it's actually published first in this collection by Del Rey of some Lovecraftian stuff and so forth. So we're going to take a look at it this morning for you and then give you a chance to take a look at it. Now, again, for those of you who may not be familiar with it, I'll link you below in the comments below so you can take a look at the Zelazny work and A Night in Lonesome October. It's very much kind of a fun, breezy kind of a read with 31 chapters in it, so you can read it one chapter a day if you want. With the theme character, the main theme character of it is Snuff, who is the guard dog for Jack the Ripper, who's doing some sort of like arcane and eldritch stuff. And basically, I don't want to give you too many spoilers. I'll link you to that below, but I'm going to have to give you some light spoilers, so I will. Basically, in A Night in Lonesome October, which is set in the Cthulhu Mythos back in the 1910s and 20s, there will be a number of people, including Jack the Ripper and others, who are fighting for some sort of a magical spell. And basically, they don't know who's on each other's side. But what you're going to do is you're going to find out near the end of the book that what they're trying to do is there's going to be a group of them that's going to be fighting to save the world by stopping this invasion of these great old ones. And there's going to be a group of them that are going to be fighting them to not save the world, but instead to bring in the great old ones, like from Cthulhu and so forth, in order so that they'll be getting power and so forth. So there are a number of these sort of fantasy of horror tropes rather that are going to be on the side of destroying the world, but helping to rule it. And then there's going to be some who kind of like where they are. Or so forth, or are seeing this as an opportunity to do something else. Jack the Ripper is going to be one, since his dog's the protagonist. Obviously, he's going to be one of the people that's trying to save the world. One of his allies is actually going to be Dracula, who I think is probably just content that he's got enough power. He doesn't need to be mucking about and so forth. He's very content with this lot in life. And then the third one is actually going to be this werewolf character too. And so the werewolf character is going to be interesting because he's going to be one of the stronger allies for Jack the Ripper during the entire story. And then at the end, he's going to be one of the allies in the final battle too. So you'll get a chance to get a feel for where he is and so forth. But nobody knows who's on each other's side until the end. So it's kind of a cool little thing that's happening. So that's it. That's the end of the spoilers for that story. Again, I don't want to give you too much in case you haven't read it yet, but that's A Night in Lonesome October. So what Neil Gaiman does is he takes the werewolf character, who's not your point of view character in the first story, and now he was going to write about him, and so forth. So that's what this short story, Only the End of the World, again, is going to be coming from. Now, this short story is written as sort of a pastiche of the Cthulhu Mythos. I haven't done a deep dive into the Cthulhu Mythos yet. I'm expecting probably to do it. My guess is coming up in October, I might do like a Cthulhu month or a Lovecraft month where I probably look at a short story and some mythos stuff and major works from it the entire month and so forth. I have done some lighter books. Like I said, A Night in Lonesome October by Zelazny is one of them. And you'll also get this. I think there's a couple of Clark Ashton Smith pieces I did that are fantasy pieces but are still set in the mythos and so forth. So I've touched it here and there a little bit, but again, not in a major way because I don't want to really sort of unpack a lot of things, but because this is a spoiler, this is a sequel to a previous one, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you with some Cthulhu Mythos sort of context so you can kind of understand where the story's coming from. So in many of the later sort of Cthulhu Mythos spin-off stories, what are the things that's happening? There's going to be some sort of a ritual or something that's going to be happening that's going to destroy the world, and of course our protagonist will wind up saving the world. And so there's probably like 80 or 100 short stories easy in the mythos that have this as their sort of central plot, that the world's about to end again, oh look it doesn't, and so forth. And so Neil Gaiman's going to be coming in, and you can tell it from the title itself, it's only the end of the world again. Like, this is happening so often that it's not even being considered like a major sort of thing, and by the characters even themselves, and so forth. It's a very trope codified story, but in the sense that he's doing it, you know, definitely from sort of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. This is what the kind of a context, rather than you know, a fun. Now, this is a Neil Gaiman story. This is not a fun, happy, you know, all the characters are having a great time and so forth. Nope, it's dark. It's he's going to take the original source material, which was kind of fun, lighthearted. You know, the main character's a guard dog. It's fun. It's never going to get too serious and so forth, which I think makes the story a really, really strong one because of that. This one, on the other hand, has lost a lot of those sort of humor elements and is now very dark place. So we're going to be basically picking up with the character of the werewolf. We're going to be starting the story with him, and the character of the werewolf will be waking up in this squalid conditions in this seaside New England town called Innsmouth. It's set in the 90s, at the same time when it was written, and so forth, after a huge amount of tourism had come in but left, and like a bunch of yuppies had come in with some seaside shanties and so forth because of the quaint old fisherman's town and so forth. They left in the 80s, and when they left with them, pretty much all the major money and so forth left with him too, and now it's very, very squalid and so forth. He's going to wake up, he's got some cramps in his stomach because he clearly was a wolf last night, and so forth. We don't have to worry about that for a while because, you know, werewolves only have to do it a month and so forth. So have him wake up. He's been in Innsmouth now for 2 weeks, checking down some leads and so forth. He's going to wake up, he's going to vomit, he's going to have some paw from a Doberman Pinscher in there, which makes it seem like, and then also see some figures from a child in there. Again, it's very Gaiman-esque to go to sort of a gothic sort of a theme, and so forth. And then after that, you'll follow the character and so forth as he adventures in there, in the city, encounters various people who don't like him and so forth, who are constantly telling him that basically they know he's a werewolf by coming up to him and giving him cures or ways to kill a werewolf, and so forth, and how they can take him out if they want to, because they don't like him, and so forth. And ultimately, he will be the sacrifice that's called upon for this dark night that's going to be happening, and so forth. And then you're going to have to deal with this. So that's basically the story. And again, it's just a short story. It doesn't take that long to read in this collection, which is, to be fair, an oversized collection. It is the last short story in the collection. And so forth. But it's not that many pages in it. It's not going to keep you up. It's less than 15 pages long in the collection. So, you know, it probably take about half an hour to an hour to read for the first time, especially if you've never read a Neil Gaiman story before. You got to get caught up. But again, he's just kind of picking up the sort of the werewolf character from the previous Zelazny story that he really enjoyed. Now, him and Zelazny are really good friends. They were, in a very real way, Neil Gaiman is probably a modern Zelazny. Roger Zelazny is probably the modern writer that Neil Gaiman probably takes the most after. And then after that, I would actually say Lord Dunsany would be the writer, I would say, after Zelazny, that he probably most copies, and is similar to in sort of his concepts and so forth. But Zelazny had this big giant mythical style of writing, and he would write one work in a mythical element, and he would do it in another, and so forth. And Neil Gaiman does the same thing. He'll write a few short stories in some Cthulhu Mythos and stuff, and other mythos and stupid thing, and he'll move on. He doesn't do sequels. He doesn't write a huge series of novels that are all in the same world and so forth. That's not typically who he is. He might do 1 or 2 sequels if he's interested in coming back to it, but that's not who he is. He's somebody who's constantly trying to do something new, and interesting, and new ways and takes on it. And so he approaches this from like a level of a pastiche. This is what the mythos is. It's funny, wink, wink, nod, nod. All right, let's move on, and so forth. So again, it's a fun story, and if you're interested in checking it out, you can. He has Neil Gaiman actually will take a lot of his stuff that he likes, and if he likes it in sort of a short story form, then he will tend to publish it in a more publishable form. Some of his stuff you can find on his website, and some of his stuff are going to be available like comics. And stuff like that too. That have been. I think that one was one of the stories that's been comicized, which is very common. If Neil Gaiman has written something that he likes, he'll come back to it, or people who like it will come back to it, and they'll republish it in other forms. And that's happened with this too. So there's going to be a few different ways to check it out. I'll link you below to this collection where it was initially published that I have, but then I will also, feel free to take a look and see what else you can find out there. You might be able to find it in other places. So I'll take a look at his website after I publish this video, but before I link it to see if it's free on his website. So I'll just link you to that. But if not, again, I'll just link you to this collection so you can check it out. And so, again, that's the story, Only the End of the World Again by Neil Gaiman. Again, it's a sequel to a Zelazny novel that was also set in the Cthulhu Mythos. And this one, it stars sort of a werewolf in the Cthulhu Mythos, which still has that sort of, one of the things that Zelazny does in his work is he brings in all these different characters into the Cthulhu Mythos in kind of this fun way. And so now you're kind of seeing Neil Gaiman kind of take that idea and run with it, okay? The Cthulhu Mythos, now we've got werewolves, and we're going to have all these other things too. So what would that actually look like? And so he's now like crossing the streams, now that, Zelazny kind of opened the door to that. Now we're going to see, these other characters kind of walk through and so forth too, which I think is very interesting. So I think it's, I definitely think that's one of the reasons why I like the Zelazny novel so much, because it does that, brings all these things in together. And Neil Gaiman, this is not going to be the only time he's going to cross streams. He's actually going to do it in a much more famous way in another short story, A Study in Emerald, which is set in about the 1890s with the Cthulhu Mythos and the Sherlock Holmes Mythos. It's combined. That actually won a Hugo Award, which he'll write later on. I don't know if he was thought about that at the same time as he was doing this, the idea of kind of combining multiple sort of stories and so forth, and if he did that then. But they'll actually win a Hugo Award for Best Short Story. Anyway, that's Neil Gaiman for you. Let me know what you thought about in the comments below. If you've read it, if you've not read it, that's Only the End of the World Again. Feel free to check it out. You have a great day. If you've enjoyed this video, hey, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. Feel free to hit that subscribe button. I try to unpack a lot of these sort of forgotten classics of fantasy, science fiction, and horror. And also, if you spend some time watching this video, I want to thank you. We all have busy days and busy lives. So the fact that you spent 10 minutes with me watching this video of that time, that's very humbling, and I appreciate that. So thanks.